Hey y'all, the holiday season is upon us. Today I'm going to show you 8 holiday recipes that will impress your friends and family. Now approach these recipes with caution, okay? Because once you start doing it, baby, they ain't gonna let you stop making it. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get into it. Pork loin can be a very festive yet super affordable cut of meat to do on your holiday table. I am making mine today with a Dijon brown sugar herb crust as well as some roasted vegetables around it. Now you can find this big hunk of meat, y'all, at Costco for only $2 a pound. If you are hosting a large crowd for the holidays, this is a great affordable option. Now that is assuming that they dine with the swine, okay? I am going to rinse this pork loin off with a little bit of water and then place it on a baking sheet lined with paper towels. I know some of you don't like to wash your meat. However, this pork loin is surrounded in a bunch of liquid anyway, so I have to open it up in the sink regardless because I don't want that all over my kitchen. Then I'm just going to wash my sink and the scissors, and I'm going to do a little bit of butchering to this pork loin. Now, y'all, I am not a professional butcher, but I can follow the directions on the back of that pork loin wrapper. So I am going to go in about 6 inches. That is going to give me a pork loin roast that is approximately 3 pounds. Now, I don't like roasting this whole bit of meat as one anyway. So even if you want 8 pounds of pork loin, I suggest cutting it into thirds. However, I am going to use the ends of the pork loin as my roast. I'll be showing you how I roast one of the ends, and I'll be saving the other roast for another recipe. The center of the pork loin, I am going to cut into about 1-inch chops, and I will save those for another recipe as well, and a few of them I am going to freeze. You know, pork loin chops are about $6 a pound in the store, and all they're doing is slicing up a pork loin for you. I feel like this is a super affordable way to get some pork. So this is how I prep the whole loin, and I'm going to take the first roast that I cut to show you how to do this recipe. So the first thing you are going to do is dry off your pork loin. Then you want to spray it generously with some olive oil. You want to make sure you do this so that this pork loin does not get dry. I know a lot of people think every cut of pork is fatty. That is not true. A pork loin can dry on you. It's kind of like a chicken breast, but a little bit fattier than that. Season your pork loin lightly with a bit of salt and then go in with some garlic, butter, and herb seasoning. You can use this brand or any one that you can get your hands on. I think Kinder's Buttery Steakhouse would be a great substitute. And then some smoked paprika. Now, some of y'all need to watch it with the smoked paprika. Now, this is strong. It tastes really good. But some of y'all be getting fooled because y'all be putting a bunch of paprika on stuff and then you think it's seasoned because it got color. Okay, y'all, we got to put the paprika on, but we also got to be generous with everything else. Y'all hear me? So I'm going in with this garlic, roasted garlic and herb seasoning as well. This already has pepper, and I am not ashamed to use some MSG. Don't be ashamed, honey, because it's going to make it taste good. So just sprinkle on a little bit. Just a pinch is going to enhance the flavor. And this is where the controversy is gonna start, because I know some of y'all are like, honey, you gonna be putting way too much mustard for my comfort zone. I promise you, mustard and pork go so well together. And even though I am putting on like 3 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, I can promise you that you don't taste the mustard, and it is just going to mix beautifully with all of the other spices. I feel like this is essential because the Dijon mustard helps keep your pork loin moist. I'm also going to add on about 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Mixed with the Dijon mustard is going to form a nice crust on top of the pork. Sprinkle on a little bit more smoked paprika and some more garlic and herb seasoning just to give a really good flavor and color to the top of your pork. With this, I am going to do some vegetables. You could do as many or as few vegetables as you want, just depending on how many people you have over and how many veggies you want as a side. I am going to rough cut some carrots as well as some fennel and potatoes. Fennel don't get no love, y'all. This licorice aniseed flavor pairs perfectly with pork. Think about sausage. Sausage has fennel seed. So if you cut up some of the fennel bulb, it will roast down, caramelize, and get kind of sweet. It will taste really good if you cut a piece of your pork loin and have a little fennel. Y'all, you talking about some good eating. Okay. Now I'm also going to add some of these buttery potatoes. Then I'm going to put everything in a 9x13 baking dish. Sprinkle on just a little salt and pepper and olive oil. You don't have to add too much because remember, some of the seasonings from the pork are going to get on this. I have to use some fresh herbs. So I'm going to use rosemary and thyme. You could also use a little bit of sage. Y'all know if I don't use fresh herbs, baby, I didn't cook for you. Okay, so these are straight from my garden. I'm going to just sprinkle them all over the vegetables and then mix everything up really well and then create a center for your pork to go in. If you want much more vegetables than this, I suggest putting them on another baking sheet. You don't want to crowd the casserole dish or else everything's going to start steaming and it's not going to get that caramelization that you're looking for. If you have already been enjoying this video so far, please make sure you give me the thumbs up and press the subscribe button and tell me what is your favorite holiday dish in the comments. I've preheated my oven to 375 degrees. I'm going to cook this pork until it has an internal temperature of 145. Now, you cannot just guess this because if you overcook this pork loin, it is going to be dry. Mine took 50 minutes, but if you have a bigger pork loin, it could take up to 65 minutes. Can you all hear that nice crust, y'all? These potatoes are nice and tender. The carrots are cooked perfectly and the fennel is sweet and caramelized with a really special licorice flavor. An essential step to having a juicy pork loin is allowing it to rest. You want it to rest for at least 10 minutes. I promise you it will not cool off, but it's going to let it collect those juices into itself. And y'all see that? Juices was running all down my finger, honey. Paired with the vegetables, this was literally one of the best pork loins I've ever had, and it would make a wonderful festive centerpiece. I am showing you guys the dressing I am making for my family this year for Thanksgiving. Now, this is a spin on my typical cornbread chicken and dressing recipe. I'm using sausage. I'm also taking a couple shortcuts, okay? And it's still going to come out good. I have been making dressing for 15 years, and one thing I can tell you is that my dressing does not miss, okay? It always comes out good. So let's go ahead and get into it. Here I have a rotisserie chicken from Costco. Now, as you can see, baby, I done already started working on this. Honey, when I got back from shopping, honey, I had to go ahead and eat me some of this, all right? But the rotisserie chicken is going to save us some time because we don't have to sit here and get this chicken cooked. Also, since I am not going to cook it again, or I'm not gonna cook it in the broth, I should say, the chicken is gonna be nice and firm. So I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna try to cut off most of the breast meat. This is really what I'm gonna slice up and put inside of that dressing. But I am gonna take off this skin. The skin has a lot of flavor, so I'm gonna use that in the broth. Back here I have 2 bowls. This is one bowl for my Instant Pot and this one is for the meat. So whatever I'm gonna pressure cook, like the skin or these bones, I'm gonna throw into that Instant Pot. Now, I ain't one of them people that say you can't touch your meat with your hands. Baby, I wash my hands and then I just go in here and cook. I'm not a restaurant, okay? My family does not care. They've been eating my food since I was a teenager. I'm gonna take a pair of scissors, try to cut out this bone. Or at least cut the bird in half. Yeah, there we go. All right, I got that back. Okay, so this is the most meat I can get off of this. That's fine. I'm gonna take that and add it to my Instant Pot. I'm also going to add in the juices from the bottom of this chicken. All of that is flavor, y'all. So go ahead and put that into your Instant Pot. Now, if you don't have an Instant Pot, then of course you can simmer this on the stove. But honey, why don't you have an Instant Pot? Okay, this thing will make your life so much easier. Into this, I'm also going to put in some herbs. I have some parsley, rosemary, thyme, sage, a carrot that look a little bit beat up. Okay, that definitely look like it's been topped a little bit too, to be honest with you. As well as some garlic. So I threw the onion in whole, but I end up chopping it into fourths later. What you don't want to do is put a ton of water in this. I guess unless you're making a ton of dressing, but I'm only adding about 3 to 3.5 cups of water because these vegetables will release their own juices. And I don't want a ton of excess. I'm going to season this with some chicken seasoning as well as some chicken bouillon. I'm going to press down that chicken carcass and the vegetables into the water just so that they will become submerged and cook really well. I'm going to transfer this liner into my Instant Pot and pressure cook this for 25 minutes. Then I am going to allow it to natural pressure release for at least 30 minutes. I love doing this in the Instant Pot because it frees up the stove and really I don't even have to think about it while I'm cooking other things. While that is cooking, I'm going to use half of a pound of this sage sausage. Oh my goodness, y'all. Just a little addition of a bit of sausage will change up your dressing and give it a new flavor. You could add more sausage if you want, but I feel like since I'm also putting in some chicken, you don't want it to get overly meaty. When the sausage is about halfway cooked, I'm going to put in some chopped celery and chopped onion and begin to saute that just in the grease that the sausage has let off. Then I'm going to toss in some butter, baby. Y'all, I love adding butter to my dressing. Actually, I love adding butter to everything. Okay, so about half a tablespoon just adds a nice rich flavor. And then I'm going to put in a few cloves of minced garlic. Now, don't get crazy with the garlic, y'all. Y'all don't want y'all dressing garlicky, but just a little bit will complement everything, as well as some fresh herbs. I chopped up some fresh sage leaves and a little bit of thyme. I'm also going to add a bit of dried thyme and whatever is left of this poultry magic seasoning. This is about 3/4 of a teaspoon. This is just an all-around chicken seasoning. You don't have to use this one. Anyone will do. My broth is finished. It's been natural pressure releasing for about an hour, but you honestly don't even have to wait that long. It is so rich and golden. This is one of my absolute favorite broths, not just to use for dressing, but it's perfect as well in a chicken noodle soup because it's just so delicious. I have got to get the best bang for my buck. So I'm going to shake out any broth that's left in those vegetables and also just let them drip in my Instant Pot liner. And I'll collect that broth later. But y'all, look at this, okay? This is the key to a perfect dressing. I made a homemade cornbread recipe. I have that recipe on my channel. I'll link it in the description box. All I did was make this about 3 to 4 days ago, and then I crumbled up the cornbread and I let it dry out on a baking sheet. I am also going to mix some of this herb seasoned cube stuffing with the cornbread. It gives it a great texture. If you don't have this, then you can just chop up like some stale bread and put that in too. I'm going to put in about 2 cups. And honey, you know this is country cooking. All right, so we eyeballing a little bit here and there. However, something I am going to measure for you is the broth, because I know that a lot of people overdo it on the broth and it can be hard to just guesstimate that. So I'm going to add in all of the, sausage and the onion and all those vegetables, as well as 2 cans of cream of chicken. And I'm going to mix this together. One big tip I have for you so that you don't overdo it with your broth is to add in your wet ingredients like your cream of mushroom. If you're using an egg like I do, go ahead and put that egg in. Mix that together before you add your broth, because that way everything is moist from those ingredients. And then I'm basically just going to be using the broth as a way to just add the extra moisture that I need. And I can ensure that I don't overdo it, because I don't want my dressing to be too wet, even though you want it to be moist. In total, I use 3 cups of broth. However, that is highly dependent on how dry your cornbread or your bread starts out. If your cornbread is made fresh that day, you may only need about 2 3/4 of a cup of broth. What you are looking for is a texture, and this is about the texture that I tend to go for. This is the time where I am going to adjust the seasoning. So I add a bit more chicken bouillon as well as a little bit of Creole seasoning. If you think it needs more herbs or chicken seasoning, you can go ahead and add that in now. I know this looks loose. Okay, I know this looks loose, but I promise you this is a really good texture and it bakes up nice and moist. I took some of that chicken breast and I cut it into cubes. That way when people bite into the dressing, they get a big hunk of chicken. All right, I love that texture in my dressing, and I'm going to fold this in. Do not worry if you get to the end of mixing your dressing and you just feel like it is too wet. That is a very easy thing to fix. All you need to do is throw in a little bit more of that stuffing or some more stale bread. Mix it in, and as it bakes, it's going to absorb the excess moisture. But that's only if you feel like you need to do an adjustment. I also decided to add in a bit of poultry seasoning just to up the flavor a little more. Y'all, I really love a well-seasoned and herby dressing. Right into the cast iron skillet that I cooked the sausage, I'm going to add the dressing. You don't need to add any butter or grease, because remember, you still got that butter and sausage fat that's already in your cast iron skillet. I am going to bake this in a 375 degree oven for about 55 to 60 minutes. You want to let this cook until the top is nice and golden brown. That will ensure that your dressing has set, it's perfectly moist, but you have a crispy crust. Like, I literally be living for the crispy crust on a cornbread dressing. I absolutely love it. I'm going to allow my dressing to rest for about 10 minutes before digging into this. And baby, this dressing is so good. Honestly, it doesn't even need gravy. And really, this could stand as a meal on its own, as paired with a little vegetable. Let me know what you think. I loved this dressing. My family tore this up on Thanksgiving. I know that there are many macaroni and cheese purists out there. They will tell you that macaroni can only be done 1 or 2 ways, and it's probably their grandmama's recipe. Today I'm going to show you a garlic and herb macaroni that is simple but is a little bit different, and it tastes great. I have already cooked my pasta and drained it, and now I'm going to melt a 1.5 tablespoons of butter and combine that with a 1.5 tablespoons of flour. I'm going to toast the flour for about 1 minute, stirring it continuously. For the garlic and herb, I'm going to add about 1/2 tablespoon of my green seasoning mixture. This is going to add a light herbal and garlicky flavor that is not going to overwhelm this pasta dish, but it's just going to complement the cheese. Then I'm going to put in 1 full can of evaporated milk and stir and whisk this until all of the lumps are out. Honey, you got to work out them flour lumps, or else your cheese sauce is not going to come out right. Now, to add some more garlic and herb flavor, I'm going to put in 1 block of Boursin garlic and herb cheese. I love this. This tastes so good in macaroni. You can also use the shallot and herb one. That will be great as well. The cheeses, don't think too hard about it, honey. You really just need to think about ratios. I cooked 8 ounces of pasta, so I need 1 pound of cheese. You want to double the cheese in proportion to the pasta. As far as varieties are concerned, you can never go wrong with using a cheddar cheese. However, I had some pepper jack, so I threw that in there. White cheeses like mozzarella tend to be milder, so you definitely need to have some sharp cheddar to balance it out. The only type of cheese I say you don't want to go too crazy with is a smoky cheese, like a smoked Gouda. Though Gouda is really good, a smoked Gouda has a strong flavor, so I tend to not use any more than about 2 ounces of that cheese. Once all of my cheese is melted, I'm then going to add some simple seasonings, a little bit of Sazon, Vegeta, pepper, garlic powder. You can just do this to your taste, and then I am going to mix that in. I like to add the Sazon just to give it a slight orangey color. Now I'm going to add in my pasta, which was boiled in a little bit of chicken broth, and I'm going to mix this together until it is well combined. At this point, you can taste your macaroni and see if you need to adjust the flavor or the thickness. To me, this had the perfect amount of ooey gooey, and I was ready to bake because y'all know my preference is to always bake my macaroni. Now I have a baking dish that I have greased with a little bit of butter. I'm going to add in my macaroni and just spread it down with my spoon, and I'm going to top this with about 6 slices of Munster cheese. I always love to use deli cheese for a topping because it is just so much easier than having to shred it. I'm going to put on a little smoked paprika, and I'm going to put this in the oven at 375 degrees for 20 minutes or until the top is golden brown and the sides are nice and bubbly. When my macaroni is done, I'm going to take it out and let it sit at room temperature for about 10 minutes before serving. This is going to allow it to set, but y'all, I know you see this. I know this looks so delicious. Are you guys going to try a little variation on your classic macaroni with a little bit in garlic and herb flavor? Let me know in the comments how you feel about this. I really love this mac and cheese, and everyone who tried it loved it. Let me know if you are going to try this recipe. Today I'm going to show you how to do a little spin on a classic pineapple cake. And we're going to do a pineapple upside down pound cake. And not only is it going to have pineapples on the top, but it's going to have pineapple bits all in the inside. And I'm going to show you a secret ingredient to just up that pineapple flavor. Let's go ahead and get started. If you've been following my baking recipes for any amount of time, you guys know I love to weigh my flour. Yes, I do, because that's the reason why a lot of y'all's cakes come out dry. The flour is compressed in the bag and you're just using too much. So I'm going to weigh out about 360 grams. Then into that, I'm adding my baking powder as well as my salt. Since my flour was super lumpy today, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this through a sieve, and to help it go a little faster, I'm going to use a spatula. If you want to get a food scale, I'm going to link one in the description box for you. Now that my flour is sifted, I'm going to get out a 20-ounce can of crushed pineapples. Now, y'all pay close attention to what I'm going to do to this pineapple, because if you mess this up, baby, your cake is going to be way too wet and it's not going to come out good. And don't you dare come into my comments telling me that my recipe won't right. Okay, what you're going to need to do is drain this pineapple, but you can't just pour it in the sieve. You actually need to press out some of the juice and mix it around a bit, because you don't need all that excess pineapple juice. Look at how much that I got out of this. Okay, I'm just going to use that pineapple juice for another recipe. Don't throw it in the cake. Don't do none of that. Okay, you just need those pineapple bits. Now I am going to beat together 2 sticks of butter as well as half of a cup of butter flavored shortening. Now, if you're not a fan of the shortening, baby, just throw in another stick of butter. Okay, but I'm just trying to save a little bit of money. I'm going to use a combination of white sugar and brown sugar. Brown sugar adds a good flavor with the pineapple combination. And I am going to beat this sugar and butter mixture for about 4 to 5 minutes until it is light and fluffy. I have 6 large eggs, and y'all, I could not see what I was doing. Baby, I dropped me some of that egg white, but you know what? We kept rolling with it. Okay, so I put in 1 or 2 eggs at a time, whatever fell in there, to be quite honest with you. And I just beat it until it was well combined. Now, for the secret ingredient, okay, y'all, I use this little pineapple flavoring. Now, I found this in my local Asian market. I've also seen it in a couple of African markets, or like ethnic stores, but this right here will add a nice little yellow color to your cake, and it actually has a really good pineapple flavor. However, if you can't find this, a good substitute would be some orange extract instead. So now I am going to add a tablespoon of vanilla extract. That just gives it a great base flavor and that pineapple flavoring. I'm going to use 2 teaspoons of this. It does have a dye in it, so it'll give it a nice color, but I'm telling y'all, this will change cake, baby. If you can get this, go ahead and get this. All right, I'm going to turn my mixer on a medium speed, and I'm going to begin to alternate adding the flour mixture with some sour cream. Sour cream is another key to this cake. It makes it extremely moist. If you do not have sour cream, you can use heavy cream instead. I would not, however, just use a cup of milk. It is not the same because it just doesn't have the same fat content. If you don't have heavy cream, with the butter, you can beat in 1 block of cream cheese, and then you'll just be adding in the dry mixture here. So those are your alternatives. Once this has been mixed, you just want to stop it. Do not over mix your batter. You just mix it until it is just combined, because if you do that, your cake is going to develop too much gluten and it's not going to come out right. So I'm just going to fold in anything that may not have gotten mixed in well by the beater at the bottom of the bowl. And then I'm going to fold in this crushed pineapple. Because I have left the crushed pineapple, whole just as they are, when you go to cut the cake, you will see that it doesn't cut pretty, all right? Which is not a problem for me. Now, I've not tried this, but I think that you could take this pineapple and then just blend it in the food processor a little bit to break it up, and that probably would prevent this issue. If you try that, let me know. So I have my good old bundt pan. I am going to grease this with a little bit of shortening. It say it's non-stick, but I don't trust that, okay? Because I can tell you right now, I'm going to be angry if my pound cake don't come loose, all right? So once you cover this in shortening, you then put some sugar. You can use flour. However, when you use flour, it just adds a little white cast to the outside of the pound cake, and I don't always like that. Okay, now the caveat with this is if you use sugar, you need to get that cake out that pan while that cake is still hot, or else your cake not gonna come out. All right. Now I have 1/4 cup of melted butter. I'm going to put that at the bottom of the cake pan, and then I'm going to put 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Please, y'all, listen to me. Do not be tempted to add pineapple juice to the top of your bundt pan. It is going to make your pound cake way too wet. In fact, even these little pineapple rings, I made sure I shook off any excess juice. I promise you this cake is moist on another level and you do not need it. So inside of each one of the pineapple rings, I put a little cherry raw, because y'all know it gives tropical vibes. And then I'm going to add all of my cake batter. To make sure that there are no air bubbles in the cake, I like to tap the cake, and that will just make any batter sink down into the rings. I am going to cook this cake in a 325-degree oven for anywhere from 70 to 80 minutes. You want to check it at the 70-minute mark. If it is still wet, put it back in there for 10 to 15 more minutes. You definitely do not want to undercook this cake, or else it's going to fall and just be way too wet. In total, mine took 80 minutes to cook. I'm going to place this on the counter and let it sit for about 10 minutes. You cannot let this cake cool into the pan because of the sugars. They basically become glue, okay? Like they're just hot and molten. And if they cool down, they're going to make the cake stick to the pan. So I use my knife just to loosen it up a bit. And then I'm going to go in for that flip, baby. Okay, and y'all going to see. Okay, y'all going to see. I've been living right. I've been praying. Okay, I've been doing the right thing. So God bless me. Amen. So my cake came out almost perfectly. Now there's that little spot there. See, I don't let that bother me because I'm not bougie. I'm just going to take that little bit from the pan and I'm going to stick it right on there while the cake is hot. And we're going to eat it and we're going to have a good time. Now the best thing to do is to let this cake sit overnight. I promise you, you will be rewarded for your patience. I'm going to go in here and get me out a big slice, and baby, this cake is super moist and delicious. I love a good potato recipe, whether it be roasted or mashed, or in this case, scalloped potatoes. These are going to be great, and I have not shared this recipe before. So I am going to peel my potatoes. I have one russet potato, and then I have a couple of white potatoes. You really can use whatever you have available. I'm going to peel it, and then I'm going to place it in a bowl of water to prevent it from getting brown while I'm working on the other veggies. To slice the potatoes, you can use either a knife or a mandolin. Now, y'all, I really feel like mandolin a little bit dangerous. If you know the amount of cut up fingers that I done seen from people using mandolins, oh my gosh, it just grosses me out. And I know you can wear the little protective glove, but at the end of the day, I don't slice things thin very often, so I don't like to have these just extra tools around the kitchen. So if you see the thinness that I'm getting here with my knife, that's about 1/8, maybe to 1/4 of an inch thick. If you have one that's kind of chubby, you can just go in on the side and just slice it a little bit thinner. After I slice them, I'm then going to put them back in that bowl of water so that they do not turn brown. Tell me in the comments if you guys do a rerun of Thanksgiving for Christmas, or if you do totally different recipes on that day. So my mom really loves a traditional meal like turkey, mac and cheese, candy yams. You know what it is, all right? But I be getting sick of that sometimes by Christmas. So I be wanting to do a switch up. I really want to do like a seafood or like a Caribbean Christmas. However, I know if we do that, then I'm going to be the only person who can cook because my mom does not like making those recipes. So definitely let me know in the comments what your menu is for Christmas. Of course, this is an idea, but I always love getting suggestions from you guys. I'm going to add 2½ tablespoons of butter to a pot. I'm going to let that melt, and then I'm going to put in my onion and a little bit of Creole seasoning. I'm going to saute this for about 3 minutes, just until the onions are a bit translucent, and then put in about 1/2 tablespoon of minced garlic. And what's really going to make this special is some minced fresh rosemary and thyme. That's something a lot of people don't add, but I promise you it will really elevate the flavor. Then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of flour and just mix this consistently for about 45 seconds. You want that flour flavor to toast out. I'm now going to add 1 3/4 cups of half and half. I'm going to mix this together until there are no lumps from the flour, and you'll see that when you put in the cheese, it will also start to thicken. I'm adding about 10 ounces of cheese to the sauce, and I'm using a mixture of Gouda, Swiss, and mature cheddar. I love this Vegeta seasoning. It adds a great flavor without giving you that chickeny flavor that chicken bouillon can add, but you can also use chicken bouillon. I'm going to just use to my taste Creole seasoning, garlic powder, Vegeta, and onion powder. But I will say this, potatoes are super bland, so you do want to season fairly generously, okay? Because you don't want, your sauce being bland, and then your potatoes going to be bland, and then people going to talk about you. They're going to think it's going to look good, but then it ain't going to taste good, okay? Sometimes I like to parboil my potatoes for about 3 or 4 minutes in a little bit of salted water. I didn't do that this time, so what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of Creole seasoning, garlic powder, whatever seasonings I put in my cheese sauce to the potatoes themselves, just to make sure they have a good flavor. I didn't parboil them because my ham is going to be cooking for so long, and the ham and the scalloped potatoes have the same cooking temperature, so there was no point in me doing that extra step. Then I'm going to put on half of my cheese sauce as well as more of the potatoes, and then the rest of the cheese sauce. On top, I am going to be spreading about 6 ounces of cheese. If you have it, I would say definitely get the Swiss or the Gruyere cheese to mix in with the other cheeses. Y'all know folks be using just cheddar cheese, sharp cheddar cheese for everything. Go on and give the people a little something extra, okay? Mix it up a little bit. So the Gouda with the Swiss or Gruyere and the cheddar adds a really great flavor to these scalloped potatoes. Now on top, I'm adding about 6 ounces of cheese. I want to cover it generously. Add a little bit of that paprika. Then I'm going to cover this and I'm going to bake this in the oven beside the ham covered for about 1 hour at 350 degrees. Then I am going to uncover it and I'm going to cook it for about 45 more minutes or until the potatoes are cooked all the way through. If you decide to parboil your potatoes, then it will most likely only take about 1 hour to cook in total. It's been an hour, so I'm taking off that foil and I'm letting my scalloped potatoes cook for 45 more minutes until it is nice and brown. And baby, you know you gotta add a little bit of parsley just to make it healthy and enhance the cuteness. You know, I don't make these rules, I just go by them. So make sure you put a little bit on there. And baby, you have the best, cheesiest scalloped potatoes. Let me know if you are going to make this. Up next is a Southern classic. We are doing some fried cabbage. I love cabbage this time of year because they are nice and sweet. When cabbage goes through a period of chill, like during winter or early spring, it actually gets a little bit sweeter. So I really love cabbage this time of year as opposed to having it in the summer. But you know what? I eat cabbage year round. I am going to cut my cabbage in half and then I'm going to take out that triangular core. That part is really tough and sometimes bitter. Then I'm going to cut my cabbage into about a 1/2 inch or maybe 1/4 inch pieces. You don't want it too thick or else your cabbage is going to be too crunchy, and you definitely don't want it too thin because baby, I don't want to eat no baby food. Okay, all that mushiness, don't like that. Then I'm going to place my cabbage in my colander and I'm going to rinse it out at my sink. The next thing I'm going to do is start to prep my peppers. I love to use some vibrant colors like orange or red because it's going to add a nice contrast to all the green from the cabbage, and it will add a nice sweetness to it as well. I'm also going to prep 1 onion and I'm going to put it in slices. You don't want to do a small dice for this because this is going to simmer for a little bit and I don't want it to break down and get mushy. The last thing I'm going to prep is 8 ounces of bacon. Yep, that good old Piggly Wiggly. Now, you can also use turkey bacon. It doesn't have as much fat, so you're going to need to add a few tablespoons of butter. But y'all, just don't tell people how much bacon in here. But it is going to make it taste real, real good, okay? Now, in my Dutch oven, I am going to add my bacon and I'm going to just cook it until the fat is rendered. Then I am going to remove the bacon and place it to the side. Even though I ain't in the fat-free group, okay, I don't really play with that, but it is a little bit much grease for me. So I'm just going to remove some and save that for another recipe. But you can leave as much as you like. Then I'm going to put in my onion and my peppers, and I'm going to saute these just for about 1 minute. Then I'm going to put in about 1/2 tablespoon of garlic and just toast that for a few seconds. For my spices, I'm using garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of dried thyme, sugar, and smoked paprika. But you can use anything that you like. Then I'm going to put in my cabbage. Now at this point, my eye was running really hot. This is one reason why I don't like an electric stove. Because since I'm baking in the oven, the eye is also getting hotter than it should be, even though it's technically on low. So I am going to be putting in about 2 to 3 cups of water because all that water is just evaporating so quickly. But most of you should only need about 1 cup or so, especially if you're simmering this on low. I'm going to mix my cabbage after about 5 minutes to make sure the bottom is not burning. That's really important because it'll add a bitter taste if those onions and those peppers start to burn. I really like my cabbage to still have a little bit of a bite to it, okay? I don't really want it, soft, mushy, grandmama with no teeth style. Not for me. So in total, I only cooked this cabbage for about 20 minutes. I know some people like theirs really soft, so you can really simmer this up to 45 minutes if you like. I add the bacon in about the last 5 minutes of cook time before I adjust the seasonings because the bacon is so salty. You definitely want to know where the salt levels are before putting in something like Vegeta or chicken bouillon or Creole seasoning. And y'all, that is it for my cabbage. I'm going to go ahead and plate this up. This was so delicious. It had a great flavor. Let me know if you're going to make this. Green bean casserole tends to get a bad rep because people tend to put canned everything in there and just bake it off. But that's not how we're doing it today. We're really going to elevate the flavors by doing everything from scratch. Fresh green beans, homemade mushroom sauce. Y'all, it's going to be delicious. Now, y'all, I know in the Black community, we don't be taking a liking to green bean casserole. Okay, it's time to break the barriers today, guys. Okay, I am going to show you guys a from the scratch green bean casserole. This isn't no, can everything green bean casserole. You guys are going to love this. I have about 1.5 pounds of green beans. I'm going to cook them for about 7 minutes in some salted water, and then I'm going to drain them and rinse them. I'm going to add butter, onions, and I'm going to start to saute this until it gets a little, little caramelization on it. I'm going to season this with some Creole seasoning just to my taste. You guys know you can use this basically like salt. And then I am going to go in with 8 ounces of chopped mushrooms. So we are making a homemade cream of mushroom today, okay? Nobody will complain about this casserole, for sure. I'm going to add a little bit of salt, and then I'm putting in about a tablespoon of my onion and herb seasoning, as well as a little bit of dried thyme. I'm going to add about 3 cloves of minced garlic, and I'm going to saute this for about 2 more minutes. Adding about 2 tablespoons, you could do 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour, is really what's going to help make that gravy, okay? You want to toast this for about a minute because you don't want no raw flour taste in your casserole, okay? And then we are going to start to add in some milk, all right? You can use milk, you can use half and half, you can use a combination of heavy cream, you can use whatever you like. All right, to give it that rich flavor, you are going to need some chicken bouillon, but I also like to add in a little bit of roasted garlic bouillon. Let this simmer on medium-low for about 5 minutes, and you will see that it will thicken up very nicely. If it is not up to your taste, like I felt like it needed a little bit more seasoning, I went in with a little extra chicken bouillon, Creole seasoning, and onion and herb seasoning. If it's too thick, this is the time where you can add in some more milk or a little bit more broth, okay? But I wanted mine a little thick, I didn't have to have mine runny, so it's just up to you, okay? Since my skillet is large, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to start tossing my green beans in here, but you can also just mix these in your pan. I'm then going to place this in my baking dish. I'm going to top it with the crispy French onions, and I'm going to bake this at 350 for about 20 to 25 minutes. Remember, your green beans are pretty much cooked. You really just want to watch it and see that your French onions don't get too crispy or too brown. So let me know, guys, are we breaking barriers today? Are you guys going to try a green bean casserole? This was so delicious. Everybody loved this. So here's what it looked like right out the oven. It's nice, creamy, with a delicious coating. A holiday ham is an essential centerpiece to a festive table. I love doing mine with brown sugar, mustard, and a little touch of rum. That little rum mixed with the spices is just going to set off the whole glaze. Y'all, let me show you how I do my brown sugar rum ham. Are you all team ham, lamb, or turkey for your holiday table? Before refrigeration, they used to slaughter pigs in the winter because it was cool and the meat would not spoil. That's how ham became really popular around Christmas time. Now, this is a 9-pound ham. It was already kind of in some brown sugar glaze, just in its juices, and I left it, okay? And I like to get sliced hams because ain't nobody trying to be carving a ham, at least for me, okay? Now, I'm going to take cloves, and I'm just going to put them all around the ham. I'll put them in some of the slices, but mostly I'm going to concentrate the cloves on the top because I want them to go into the fat. And when that fat sort of melts down in the oven, it'll sort of add that clovey flavor. Now, to me, if you don't got clove, you ain't had ham, okay? So this is a must, but if you are really against clove or if you just don't want to take the time to spike, you could just add maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of ground cloves to the sauce. I'm going to score the back because typically that is not sliced. And then I am going to add the cloves in sort of on the, you know, in the little intersections. All right. Next thing we're going to make is a brown sugar mustard rum glaze. Yes. So I have a half of a cup of brown sugar. I'm going to add in about 1/4 cup of Dijon mustard. Even if you're not a mustard fan, it's not going to go crazy. Now I'm going to put a little rum in there, y'all. A little Bacardi. Come on now. It's not going to be strong. It's just going to add, you know, that little holiday vibe. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon of honey. And I like to add in some spices. So I'm going to use about 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Of course, if you're using your ground clove, you could add it in now. And I'm going to put in a pinch of salt. I have 2 tablespoons of hot butter. That's going to just help the brown sugar melt because I won't try and heat this up on the stove. Okay. I'm going to pour half the glaze on the ham now, and then I'll save the other half to use near the end before I broil it. Now, y'all, I'm going to cook this at 325 for 2 to 2.5 hours covered with foil. You should baste every 30 minutes, but don't make the mistake I made. Guys, I was cooking so many dishes, and I forgot to baste, and unfortunately, my ham dried out a little bit. And I'm telling you, I know how to do some ham, okay, if you've seen my other holiday videos, but this is what happens when you are a YouTuber and you are filming, okay? You forget, so don't forget like me, okay? I hope you guys are not disappointed. But the ham still tasted great. So this is after 2.5 hours. I went in, I basted it. You know, it's a little crispy around the edges, okay? You know what I'm saying? But we gonna eat it, all right? And then I'm gonna pour on the other half of the glaze, and I am just going to lightly broil this like on low for about, 3 minutes until the glaze just gets really sticky, and I wanted it, kind of have that tacky feeling on the top. Now, this ham had a wonderful flavor. It was so delicious. And if you baste, you're definitely not going to have the slight drying out problem at all, because I've done ham so many times. But you guys, let me know if you are going to try any of these recipes. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'm going to see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye and God bless.